People disappear every day, some by choice, some by force, and many just get swallowed by the chaotic, unpredictable nature of the world. But every once in a while a case comes along that defies all logic. A story so strange that even seasoned investigators can't agree on what happened. This is one of those cases, a disappearance that happened in reverse. Not someone who vanished into thin air, but someone who appeared out of it. It all began on a deserted stretch of highway cutting through the American Southwest, the kind of place where the land is flat, the air is dry, and the sky feels way too big for the world beneath it. On a hot afternoon in the summer of 2013, a state trooper named David Holbrook was on a routine patrol along Route 377. He spotted a man walking alone on the shoulder of the road. Normally, this wouldn't be a big deal, but Holbrook had just driven that same stretch 10 minutes earlier, and there had been absolutely no one there. The desert gives you long lines of sight, miles of visibility. If someone had been walking, he would have seen him. Holbrook slows his cruiser and pulls up beside the man. The stranger is barefoot. His clothes are old-fashioned brown wool trousers, suspenders, a white shirt that looks handmade. Not modern, not even close. The man is covered in dust, as if he'd been walking for a very, very long time. But the strangest detail, he looks completely confused, blinking at the road like he's never seen a paved highway, let alone a car, before. Holbrook steps out of his cruiser and calls to him. The man freezes, startled, staring at the trooper's uniform with wide, unblinking eyes. When Holbrook asks if he needs help, the man responds in English, but his accent is wrong. It's not foreign, more like outdated, as if he learned to speak by listening to a century-old radio broadcast. He gives his name, Elias Rourke. When the trooper asks where he's coming from, Elias just points behind him, out toward the empty desert. But there's nothing out there for miles. No towns, no ranches, no trails, not even a dirt road. Holbrook asks again, and Elias repeats the same words, almost mechanically, from the settlement. The settlement by the ridge. Holbrook has lived in this area his whole life. There is no settlement, there is no ridge. There is nothing but sand and sun. He offers Elias a bottle of water. The stranger hesitates, inspecting the plastic bottle like it's some kind of sorcery. When he finally drinks, he swallows too fast and coughs violently, as if he's not used to something so cold and pure. Holbrook tries to radio dispatch, but the signal just crackles with static. It's unusual, but not impossible. Rural dead zones exist. He waves Elias toward the cruiser to get him into the air conditioning, and the man steps toward the vehicle with visible fear. At this point, Holbrook is thinking it has to be drugs, severe dehydration, or some kind of mental illness, something explainable. He opens the passenger door and tells Elias to get in. The man touches the car seat and recoils like it burned him. He studies the interior of the car, leaning in cautiously. Finally, he sits down, but he's stiff, bolt upright, as if he's not sure whether this moving machine is about to kill him. On the drive back to town, Holbrook keeps the dashboard camera running. Elias is silent for most of the ride, just staring through the windshield with a mixture of awe and dread. Then the trooper asks him a simple question. What year do you think it is? Elias answers immediately, without a hint of doubt, 18. Holbrook almost laughs, thinking he must have misheard, but the man repeats it with absolute certainty. 1887 when they arrive at the station. Things only get weirder. Dispatch can't identify the man. No missing persons report matches his name or description. His fingerprints aren't in any database, not criminal, not military, not immigration, nothing. He's a ghost. A detective comes in to interview him, and that's when the situation goes from strange to truly unbelievable. Elias describes a place that doesn't exist on any map, a small community of fewer than 50 people who live off the land near a ridge of black stone. He talks about a terrible illness that swept through their settlement, people dying within days. He claims he fled on foot, running straight into the desert to escape. When the detective asks how long he'd been walking, he says, 2 suns and a moonrise. About 2 days. Yet, his skin is barely sunburned, his feet are dirty but not bloodied or blistered, and he shows no real signs of exhaustion. It doesn't add up. At some point during the questioning, Elias begins to panic. He looks around the sterile interview room as if the walls are closing in on him. He starts repeating one phrase over and over. The sky is wrong. When they ask him what he means, he won't elaborate. He just keeps whispering it, his voice trembling. The sky is wrong. The officers bring him more water and try to calm him down. Hours pass. The sun sets. They decide to take him to a local hospital for a full evaluation. But before the transport arrives, Elias asks to use the restroom. A deputy escorts him down the hall and waits right outside the door. 30 seconds pass. 1 minute. 2 minutes. The deputy knocks. There's no answer. He calls out Elias's name. Still nothing. He calls for backup. The officers break down the door. The restroom is empty. The window is sealed shut from the inside. There are no vents large enough for a child to crawl through, let alone a grown man. There is no second exit. There is no hiding place. Elias Rourke, the man who walked out of nowhere, had disappeared back into nowhere. They immediately reviewed the hallway security camera footage. It shows everything. Elias enters the restroom. The deputy stands guard outside the entire time. No one else enters, no one leaves. The door never opens again until the police break it down. It makes absolutely no sense. The next morning, they review the dashcam footage from Trooper Holbrook's car the drive back to the station. At first, everything looks normal. Elias can be seen sitting in the passenger seat, staring out the window. But then, the last minute of the video file is corrupted. When technicians manage to restore it, the image glitches in a way they've never seen. Elias begins to fade. He literally fades, like a transparency dissolving into the background. His outline flickers in and out of existence, half visible, half not, at one point. For a split second, only his wide, terrified eyes remain clear, staring forward, before the entire video signal collapses into a screen of pure static. Officially, the event was classified as a standard missing person case. But internally, among the officers who were there, they labeled it something else, an unresolved anomaly. Trooper Holbrook was advised not to discuss the incident publicly. The report was sealed. The footage was locked away. But stories like this have a way of leaking out. Rumors spread through local law enforcement circles. And eventually, the tale of Elias Rourke made its way online, becoming part urban legend, part suppressed police incident. Some believe Elias was suffering from a severe dissociative episode, a complete break from reality. Others think he was an incredibly skilled con artist, though no one can explain how he vanished from a locked, guarded room. Then there are the paranormal theories, an interdimensional slip, a time traveler caught between two realities. But the most chilling theory is also the simplest. Maybe Elias Rourke wasn't lying.